the desolate expanse. In the farthest reaches of the cosmos, where the stars seemed to flicker with an eerie awareness, the planet of Xyphor lay shrouded in an atmosphere thick with mystery. Its surface was a tapestry of dark, jagged rock formations that jutted out like the bones of some long-dead creature, each one pulsating with an unsettling energy that seemed to breathe in time with the universe itself. Vast, churning clouds of violet and indigo swirled above, casting an otherworldly glow that illuminated the landscape in an unnatural light. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, as if the very essence of the planet was steeped in the remnants of forgotten civilizations. At the center of this desolate expanse stood Dr. Elias Vane, a seasoned xenobiologist whose heart raced with a mix of trepidation and determination. His mission was clear: to uncover the secrets of the ancient alien structures that dotted the horizon, structures that whispered of a time when the cosmos was alive with the echoes of forgotten knowledge. With a satchel filled with tools and a mind brimming with questions, he stepped forward, the weight of the unknown pressing against him like a shroud. As he ventured deeper into the alien landscape, the silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant, haunting cries of creatures that seemed to echo from the very fabric of the universe. Each step he took felt like a descent into a realm where the laws of nature twisted and bent, where the very concept of time seemed to warp and dissolve. He could feel the cosmic horror lurking just beyond the veil of his perception, an omnipresent dread that Cosmos was alive with the echoes of creatures that seemed to echo from the very fabric of the universe. The edges of his sanity. The stars above seemed to watch him, their cold, distant light a reminder of the insignificance of his existence in the grand tapestry of the cosmos. With every heartbeat, the weight of the unknown pressed heavier upon him, a reminder that he was merely a speck in a universe vast and indifferent. The air crackled with an energy that hinted at something ancient and malevolent, a presence that had waited for millennia to be discovered. As he continued his journey, the landscape shifted around him, revealing strange, pulsating voids that seemed to drink in the light, leaving only darkness in their wake. The ground beneath his feet felt unstable, as if the planet itself was alive and the very air was thick with the scent of something it should not be. In this moment, the cosmic horror was not just a distant concept, it was a palpable reality waiting to be unveiled: the weight of discovery. Dr. Elias Vane had spent his life chasing the unknown, his career built on the pursuit of knowledge that others feared to touch. He had studied the ruins of long-dead civilizations, deciphered the cryptic symbols of alien cultures, and ventured into the depths of uncharted worlds, driven by an insatiable curiosity that had shaped him into the man he was today. But this mission was different. Unlike the ruins of Earth's distant past or the remnants of ancient starfaring empires, the structures on Xyphor were not merely remnants of a lost civilization. They were something else entirely. Something that defied classification, that whispered of a time before recorded history, before even the first stars had burned. The mission had been clear: to investigate the alien structures, to understand their purpose, and to uncover the secrets they held. But as Elias stood beneath the alien sky, the weight of that task pressed upon him with an unbearable intensity. The unknown was not merely an academic challenge, it was a force that gnawed at the edges of his mind, threatening to unravel the very fabric of his sanity. He had spent years preparing for this, but nothing had prepared him for the feeling of insignificance that crept into his thoughts as he gazed upon the alien landscape. The structures that loomed on the horizon were unlike anything he had ever encountered. They did not conform to any known architectural style, their surfaces shifting as if they were alive, their forms twisting and reconfiguring themselves in ways that defied logic. Some of them pulsed with a strange, rhythmic energy, as though they were breathing, as though they were waiting. The symbols etched into their surfaces were not just inscriptions, they were something else, something that seemed to resonate with the very air around them, sending shivers down his spine with every step he took. Elias had always believed that knowledge was the key to understanding the universe, that the pursuit of truth was worth any risk. But as he stood at the precipice of discovery, he could not shake the gnawing fear that some knowledge was meant to remain hidden. He had seen the consequences of uncovering secrets that were never meant to be known. His own past was littered with the remnants of failed expeditions, of discoveries that had led to madness, to destruction, that the pursuit of truth was worth any risk. The unknown could consume those who sought it, and now, standing on the threshold of something even older than the stars, he felt the weight of that fear pressing against him like a storm on the horizon, and yet he could not turn back. The pull of the unknown was too strong, the hunger for understanding too deep. He had come too far, and the structures on Xen were waiting for him. The first encounter, Elias moved cautiously, his boots crunching against the brittle, crystalline ground as he approached the nearest structure. It was a towering monolith, its surface a shifting mosaic of iridescent colors that pulsed like the veins of some unseen ancient being. The air around it felt heavier, as though the very fabric of space had thickened, bending in ways that defied the known laws of physics. He reached out, his fingers hovering just above the surface, and felt a strange warmth radiating from it, not from the planet itself, but from something deeper, something that should not exist. As he stepped closer, the structure responded. The symbols etched into its surface flickered and rearranged themselves, forming patterns that seemed to shift with his movements, as though they were reading him, studying him. His breath caught in his throat. This was not a passive object. It was watching him. A sudden gust of wind, though there was no source, whipped through the air, sending a cascade of fine dust spiraling into the sky. The dust was not ordinary. It shimmered with an unnatural luminescence, as if it were made of something beyond the material world. Elias shielded his eyes, blinking rapidly as the dust coalesced into a swirling vortex above the structure, forming a shape that was neither solid nor liquid, but something in between. It was a presence, a force that had been waiting for him, and now it was awakening. His heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing with the implications of what he was witnessing. This was not a ruin. It was not a remnant of an ancient civilization. It was something else entirely, something that had been waiting for him, for someone to come and see. He reached for his scanner, but the device flickered and died in his hands. A surge of static crackled through the air. The ground beneath him trembled. The structure groaned, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through his bones, sending a shudder through his bones, sending a shudder through his entirely. Something had been waiting for him, for someone to come in his Zakain. Bigitskain, but the device flickered and died in his hands. Short, uneven gasps. Then, the structure opened. A seam split along its surface, revealing a dark, yawning void within. The air inside was colder than the surrounding atmosphere, thick with an energy that made his skin prickle. The darkness was not empty, it was alive, pulsing with something that defied comprehension. A shape moved within the void, something vast and formless, shifting and writhing like ink in water. It was not a creature, not in the way he understood life. It was something beyond life, beyond death, beyond anything he had ever known. He took a step back, but the ground beneath him felt unstable, as if the very planet was holding its breath. The structure was no longer just a passive object. It was an entity, an intelligence that had been waiting for him to arrive. A whisper slithered through the air, not in words, but in meaning and sensation. It was not a voice, but a presence that pressed against his mind, unraveling his thoughts, pulling at the edges of his sanity. He felt it in his bones, in the marrow of his soul, a sensation that was both alien and intimately familiar. It was not a message, it was a warning. And then, the darkness within the structure shifted, and something emerged. A single luminous eye, vast and unblinking, stared at him from within the void. It did not blink, did not move, but it saw him. And in that moment he understood the truth of the structure, of the planet, of the universe itself. He was not meant to be here. He was not meant to see this. And yet he had come. And now, the horror had begun, the descent into the unknown. Elias forced himself to move forward, his limbs heavy with an unseen weight, as though the very fabric of the universe was pressing down upon him. The structure's interior was a labyrinth of shifting corridors, each one more alien than the last. The walls were not made of stone or metal, but of something that seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as though the structure itself was breathing. The air was thick with an energy that sent shivers down his spine, a presence that sent shivers down his spine, a presence that seemed to be watching him, waiting. He reached for his scanner again, but it remained unresponsive. His communicator was silent, the device useless in this place. He was alone, truly alone, and the realization sent, as though the structure itself was breathing. The air was thick with an energy that sent shivers down his spine, a presence that seemed to be watching him, waiting. A cold dread curling through his veins. There was no one to call for help, no one who would understand what he was experiencing. He was the first to step into this place, and if he was not careful, he might be the last. As he moved deeper into the structure, the walls began to shift again, their surfaces rearranging themselves into patterns that seemed to form words. Though they were not words in any language he knew. They were symbols, ancient and unknowable, written in a script that had not been used in the history of the cosmos. He reached out, his fingers trembling as he traced the symbols with the tip of his glove, and a sudden wave of vertigo washed over him. The symbols were not just inscriptions. They were something more. They were not words in any language he knew. That spoke to him, that reached into the deepest recesses of his mind, unraveling his thoughts, pulling at the edges of his sanity. He staggered, gripping the wall for support, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The symbols were whispering, not in words, but in sensations, in emotions that were not his own. He could feel something watching him, something vast and incomprehensible, something that had been waiting for him to come. The presence was not malevolent, not in the way he had imagined, but it was something else entirely, something that defied understanding, that existed beyond the boundaries of human perception. A flicker of movement in the periphery of his vision sent a jolt of fear through him. He turned sharply, but there was nothing there, only darkness, thick and unyielding, pressing in from all sides. The air was colder now, the silence heavier, as though the structure itself was holding its breath. Then, a sound, low, resonant, and ancient. It was not a sound in the traditional sense, but something that vibrated through the very core of his being, a sensation that sent a wave of panic surging through his chest. He pressed his back against the wall, his heart hammering in his ears, his breath shallow and uneven. The structure was alive. It was not just a ruin. It was a being, an intelligence that had been waiting for him, for someone to come and see, and now it was watching him. A sudden shift in the air, a ripple in the fabric of reality, and the corridor before him twisted, folding in on itself. He gasped as the world around him seemed to shift, as though he had been pulled into a different dimension, one that existed beyond the known laws of the universe. The walls were no longer solid, but fluid, shifting and changing with every step he took. He could feel the presence of the structure pressing against him, as though it was trying to reach into his mind, to pull him deeper into its depths. He wanted to run, to turn back, to escape the madness that was taking hold of him, but he could not. The structure had already taken him, and now there was no turning back. He was not just an observer. He was not just an observer. He was a part of this place, of this entity, of something that had been waiting for him for eons. And now, he was being drawn into the unknown, into the heart of the horror that had been waiting for him all along. The revelation of existence. Elias stumbled forward, his breath ragged as the shifting corridors of the structure twisted around him, folding in on themselves like the pages of an ancient, unreadable tome. The air was thick with an energy that pressed against his skin, a presence that was neither malevolent nor benevolent, but something far more terrifying. It was indifferent. It did not care for him, did not seek to harm or protect him. It simply existed, and in that existence it had consumed everything else. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in the darkness above. The walls were no longer shifting, but instead they were solid, unyielding, and covered in the same alien script that had haunted him since the moment it was indifferent. It did not care for him, did not seek to harm or protect him. It simply existed. First stepped into the structure. At the center of the chamber stood a single, massive object, a sphere of impossible geometry, its surface a swirling mass of light and shadow, as if it contained the entire cosmos within its depths. It pulsed with an eerie rhythm, a heartbeat that did not belong to any known life form, but to the very fabric of the universe itself. Elias felt his heart slow, his breath shallow as he approached the sphere. The air around it was different, heavier, as though the very concept of time had been bent and reshaped by its presence. He reached out, his fingers trembling, and the moment his hand touched the surface, a wave of sensation surged through him. It was not a physical sensation. It was something deeper, something that reached into the core of his being, unraveling the very fabric of his thoughts. He saw things that should not be seen, things that had never existed, things that had never been and never would be. He saw the birth of the universe, the first flicker of light in the endless void, the slow, inevitable expansion of existence, the creation of stars, the birth of galaxies, the rise and fall of civilizations that had never been known to him. And then he saw himself, not as he was now, but as he had always been, meant to be. A single speck of consciousness in an infinite expanse of nothingness, a fleeting moment in the vast, unending march of time. He saw the futility of his existence, the insignificance of his journey, the absurdity of his pursuit of knowledge the absurdity of men, a universe that had no need for it. He was not a seeker of truth. He was a fool, a wanderer in a void that had no meaning, no purpose, no end. The sphere pulsed again, and the vision deepened. He saw the countless lives that had come before him, the civilizations that had risen and fallen, the knowledge that had been lost, the secrets that had been buried, the truths that had been hidden for eons. He saw the weight of all that knowledge pressing down upon him, the sheer immensity of it, the crushing realization that he was not meant to understand it. He was not meant to know. And then he saw the thing that had been waiting for him all along. It was not a creature, not a being, not anything that could be named in the language of men. It was the void itself, the endless, unyielding nothingness that had existed before the first star had burned, before the first planet had formed, before the first thought had ever crossed the mind of a being. It was the absence of meaning, the absence of purpose, the absence of everything that had ever been or ever would be. It was the thing, that had consumed the universe. It had not been created, it had not been created, it had not been born, it had simply been, and in its existence it had taken everything else. It had consumed the stars, the planets, the civilizations, the knowledge, the meaning, the purpose. It had taken it all, and in its taking it had left nothingness that had dissolving before the first star had burned, into the void that now surrounded him. He could not escape it. He could not understand it. He could not even comprehend the sheer weight of the horror that had been revealed to him. The universe was not a place of meaning. It was not a place of purpose. It was a place of nothingness, of endless, unending emptiness, and he was nothing more than a single, fleeting moment in that vast, indifferent expanse. And as he sat there, staring into the abyss, he realized the truth that had been waiting for him all along. He was not meant to be here. He was not meant to see this. And now, he would never be the same again. The fracturing mind, Elias remained on his knees, his hands trembling as he stared into the abyss that had consumed him. The weight of the revelation pressed upon him like a crushing force, each breath a laborious effort against the void that had taken hold of his mind. He could feel it now, the slow unraveling of his thoughts, the way his mind was slipping away, piece by piece, as if the structure itself was peeling back the layers of his sanity and exposing the raw, unformed chaos beneath. His thoughts were no longer his own. They twisted and turned in ways that defied logic, forming images that were not his, sensations that were not his, sensations that did not belong to him. He saw himself standing in places he had never been, speaking words he had never spoken, feeling emotions that were not his. The structure was not just watching him, it was inside him, threading itself through the very fabric of his mind, pulling him deeper into the abyss. He tried to remember who he was, but the memory was slipping away like sand through his fingers. He was Dr. Elias Vane, a xenobiologist, a seeker of knowledge, a man who had spent his life chasing the unknown. But what was that now? What was he in the face of this? He had come here to uncover the truth, to understand the universe. But now he realized that truth was not something to be uncovered. It was something to be avoided. A whisper slithered through his mind, not in words, but in meaning and sensation. It was not a voice, but a presence, a force that pressed against his thoughts, unraveling them, pulling them apart. He tried to fight it, to uncover the truth, to understand the universe. But now, he realized that truth was not something to be uncovered. It was something to be avoided. A whisper slithered through his mind, not in words, but in meaning, in sensation. Struggled, the more the structure seemed to tighten its grip on him. He was not a prisoner. He was a part of it. His body felt heavy, as though it had been weighed down by the sheer enormity of what he had seen. His limbs trembled, his muscles twitching as though he were caught in the throes of some unseen force. He could feel the structure's influence seeping into him, into his bones, into his very soul. It was not just a place, it was a thing, a being, and it had found him. He tried to move, to escape, but the ground beneath him was no longer solid. It was fluid, shifting, and it pulled him downward, deeper into the abyss. He was not falling, he was being drawn into the void, into the heart of the structure, into the thing that had been waiting for him all along. The darkness around him thickened, pressing in from all sides, suffocating him, consuming him. He could feel his mind unraveling, his thoughts slipping away, his sense of self dissolving into the endless expanse of the unknown. He was no longer a man, he was nothing. He was a whisper in the void, a flicker of light in the endless dark, a moment that would be forgotten, the moment it was born. The structure was not just a place, it was a thing beyond comprehension. A force that had existed before the first star had burned, before the first planet had formed, before the first thought had ever crossed the mind of a being. It was the thing. He was a whisper in the void, a flicker of light in the endless dark, a moment that would be forgotten. Taken everything, the thing that had left nothing behind, and now it had taken him. He could feel it now, the thing that had been waiting for him all along. It was not a creature, it was not a being. It was the absence of meaning, the absence of purpose, the absence of everything that had ever been or ever would be. It was the thing that had consumed the stars, the planets, the civilizations, the knowledge, the meaning, the purpose. It had taken it all, and in its taking it had left nothing behind. And now it had taken him. He tried to scream, but no sound came. His throat was dry, his voice gone, his mind a hollow shell of what had once been. He was not a man. He was not a man. He was not the seeker of knowledge. He was nothing. He was a whisper in the void, a flicker of light in the endless dark, a moment that would be forgotten the moment it was born. And as the darkness consumed him, he realized the truth that had been waiting for him all along. He was not meant to be here. He was not meant to see this. And now he would never be the same again. The final descent Elias's mind was a void, an endless expanse of nothingness where thought and identity had been stripped away. The structure had consumed him, had pulled him into its depths, and now there was no turning back. He was no longer a man, no longer a seeker of knowledge, no longer a seeker of light, a flicker of light in the endless dark, a moment that would be forgotten the moment it was born. The structure pulsed around him, its walls shifting and reshaping themselves in ways that defied logic, as though it were alive, as though it were watching him. He could feel its presence pressing against his mind, unraveling him, pulling him deeper into the abyss. He was not a prisoner, he was a part of it, and now he was being drawn into the heart of the thing that had been waiting for him all along. He tried to resist, to fight, but the more he struggled, the more the structure tightened its grip on him. He could feel it now, the thing that had consumed the universe, the thing that had consumed the universe, the thing that had taken everything, the thing that had left nothing behind. Its card was not a creature, not a being, not anything that could be named in the language of men. It was the absence of meaning, the absence of purpose, the absence of everything that had ever been or ever would be, and now it had taken him. He was no longer a man, he was nothing. The darkness around him thickened, pressing in from all sides, suffocating him, consuming him. He could feel his mind unraveling, his thoughts slipping away, his sense of self dissolving into the endless expanse of the unknown. He was not a seeker of knowledge, he was not a seeker of knowledge. He was not a scientist, he was not a scientist, he was not even a human. He was nothing. The darkness around him thickened, pressing in from all sides, suffocating him, consuming him. The endless dark, a moment that would be forgotten, the moment his thoughts slipping away, his thoughts slipping away, his thoughts slipping away, his sense of self dissolving into the endless expanse of the unknown. Then the structure shifted again, and he was no longer standing. He was falling. He was not falling into the void. He was falling into the thing that had consumed the universe. He was falling into the abyss, into the heart of the structure, into the thing that had been waiting for him all along. He could feel it now, the presence of the thing that had taken everything. It was not a creature. It was not a being. It was the absence of meaning, the absence of purpose, the absence of everything that had ever been or ever would be. And now it had taken him. He was not a man. He was not a man. He was not a scientist. He was not even a human. He was nothing. He was not falling into the thing that had taken everything. He was not falling into the void. He was not a creature. It was not a being. It was the absence of meaning, the absence of purpose, the absence of purpose, the absence of... was a flicker of light in the endless dark. And now he would be forgotten. The weight of the unknown. The cosmos had always been a vast, unknowable expanse, a realm of endless mystery that had defied human understanding for eons. But now, standing on the precipice of the infinite, Elias Vane had glimpsed the truth that had been hidden from all who came before him. He was not meant to understand. He was not meant to know. The universe was not a place of meaning, not a place of purpose. It was a void, an endless expanse of nothingness that had consumed everything before it, and would consume everything that came after. Existential dread had always been a specter that haunted the minds of those who sought knowledge beyond the limits of human comprehension. It was not meant to understand. He was not meant to know. The universe was not a place of meaning, not a place of purpose. The realization that the universe was indifferent, that the vastness of space held no regard for the lives that flickered within it. But for Elias, that dread had become something more than a philosophical concept. It had become a living, breathing horror that had consumed him, that had stripped him of his identity, of his purpose, of everything that had once made him human. He had come to Xyphor seeking knowledge, seeking truth, seeking the answers that had eluded him for so long. But the structure had shown him the truth that no human was ever meant to see. The universe was not a place of discovery. It was a place of consumption, of erasure, of annihilation. It had taken the stars, the planets, the civilizations, the knowledge, the meaning, the purpose. And now it had taken him. He was no longer a man. He was no longer a scientist. He was no longer even a whisper in the void. He was nothing. And yet the structure had not ended him. It had not consumed him in the way he had feared. It had taken him, yes, but it had not destroyed him. He was still here, still aware, still feeling the weight of the unknown pressing against him. He was still a part of the universe, still a fragment of something vast and unknowable, but he was not the same. He had seen the truth, and now he would carry it with him for the rest of his existence. He had seen the truth, and now he would carry it with him for the rest of his existence. He would never be able to walk through the cosmos without feeling the weight of the void pressing against him. He had glimpsed the abyss, and now he would never be able to escape it. And as the structure pulsed around him, as the darkness pressed in from all sides, Elias Vane knew that the horror of the unknown would never leave him. It had taken him, and now it would never let him go. Do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more stories. Hit the notification bell to be notified of new stories when they become available. Feel free to leave a comment and tell me if you enjoyed the story and want to hear more like it.